this was a game where he's facing arguably as good a speed to power pass rusher as there is in the National Football League in Will Anderson. He is really tough for a tackle to anchor with a firm base and control him. And I think McKivitz, was exposed a couple of times in this game. I've always believed that Colton McKivitz was a liability in one-on-one pass protection.
The Niners pass rush was funny.
Yeah, really funny.
Because the Houston Texans offensive line is not good.
Juwan Jennings dropping a 60-yard bomb ski right to him.
If you can't laugh, then what are we doing here? So let's bring in the man with the laugh. He is also the man with the tape and the eyes and the NFL films and all of that. And he joins us every single Wednesday right here on Willard and Dibbs 95.7 The Game, on the River Islands guest line, on YouTube as well. It is none other than the great Greg Cosell. Hi, Greg. What's up today?
I'm just listening to you guys, so I'm wondering what funny means. Is this like funny in Goodfellas with Joe Pesci?
Yeah.
Totally.
What kind of funny are we talking about here?
Like funny,
like a clown?
Yeah, exactly.
Like a clown?
Yeah. Better watch your back.
Let's hope this conversation doesn't end like that did in Goodfellas,
Yeah. Hey, dance that drink over to me, Cosell.
Right.
You got to be careful who you make fun of, Greg. That is true. I've learned
That's
that.
right.
I've learned that lesson before, and I made fun of the Houston Texans offensive line, and I learned my lesson, didn't I?
Well, who would have thought, based on what he'd done prior to this game and a good part of last season, that Stroud would play arguably the best game he's played, or looked the best, I should say, looked more like he did in his rookie season than he has in a very long time. These are the things you never know in the NFL, which is why it's a week-to-week league, and you can't make bold, definitive judgments based on one game as if that's the way of the world.
And when you watch the tape, Greg, and the thing that I was trying to look at in my second and third watching is the marriage of the pass rush to the coverage. What did you see from the Niners about their defense? It felt to me like when they brought coverage or they brought pressure, the coverage was playing soft. What did the tape show you?
I think that's fair because they were very aggressive with their pressure because I think they knew that they couldn't get there with four, and obviously the inability to rush the quarterback has been something we've talked about all season long with their down four. So they rushed 5 or more on 15 of Stroud's 42 dropbacks, which is a very high percentage for them. And there were times where the coverage on the outside was off coverage is what we would call it. You can call it soft, but it was off coverage. So it presented a clean, quick throw. So the pressure was not really a factor. And Stroud obviously was outstanding against Blitz because of the coverage. I mean, he was 11 for 14 for 141 yards when the Niners rushed 5 or more. And on third down versus Blitz, he was 6 for 6 for 81 yards, and 5 of those 6 completions resulted in first downs, which is the most important stat, obviously, getting a first down on third down. So, yeah, there were relatively easy throws that were available when they did pressure.
Greg, I'd love to dig even a little bit more into that defensive line because Bryce Huff is going to miss again this week. The Niners have made a couple of, I guess you would call them more minor acquisitions. Cleveland Farrell is back to the practice squad. He's been on the Niners before. And then they they got Keion White from the Patriots. Is this just a situation, though, where the personnel has been so stripped that are we at a spot where we can't really expect much from that group?
Again, like I said, in the NFL, you never know week to week, but they do not really have a pure pass rusher, either inside or outside. So I don't want to sit here and say, oh, God, they'll never be able to rush the quarterback because you never know what a given game produces. But they do not have people right now who can do that, who can win one-on-one, for instance. They brought in Keion White. I remember evaluating him coming out of Georgia Tech for the 2023 draft. I thought he was a strong power-type player. I didn't think that he was a pure natural pass rusher. So we'll see. They're looking for bodies. I mean, they're looking for warm bodies, guys. They just need people up front that ideally can maybe present some kind of pass rush pressure. That's what they're looking for right now. They obviously didn't give up a lot to get him. He's still a young player. Maybe he develops into a quality player. I'm not sure, though, that the strength of his game is as a pure pass rusher.
And beyond that, they do need to find a way to shore up the run. And I'm looking at, a play in the second half where they had a couple of guys in the secondary, Green and Stout, not be able to set the edge, and you don't have Bosa there. Is the run defense on the edge as much of a problem as the pass rush?
Well, it's funny. I actually didn't think there were a couple of plays in this game. And by the way, this game just got away from them early with the combination of the long drives. Obviously, that's a function of the defense. And then the offense, because they just struggled on a couple of drives early, the game just totally snowballed. It became one of those games. I mean, they ran so few plays. This was a game where I'm not saying you don't look at the offensive tape. Coaches and I did obviously look at everything and try to improve on everything, but the game offensively just got away. But in the first half, I didn't think their run defense was bad. In fact, I thought they were pretty physical up front with the run defense. And then once the game gets away, it becomes a different game. And then did it seemingly get closer? When he hit Kittle for the touchdown on the first drive in the third quarter, was there that moment when you thought, hey, we had a ball game? But they never really were in control in any way of this game. It was one of those games. It snowballed.
No question. Let's go to the other line because people had almost an equal number of problems on that side. And I get that the Houston Texans pass rush is really, really good.
It is.
Right? Can we explain it that simply, Greg, or is there anything that stood out on the offensive line performance from the 49ers that certainly could use correcting?
Well, look, I've felt this all along watching tape. I don't know how the 49ers feel. Certainly Chris Forster is a lot smarter than I am when it comes to offensive line play. But I've always believed that Colton McKivitz was a liability in one-on-one pass protection. And there are going to be matchups in which that gets exposed. And it's just, that's the reality. To my way of thinking, having watched every Niners play for 10 years, however long I've been doing things in your market. So, this was a game where he's facing arguably as good a speed to power pass rusher as there is in the National Football League in Will Anderson. He's one of the most dominant speed to power pass rushers. And when he has space to generate speed and velocity, he is really tough for a tackle to anchor with a firm base and control him. And I think McKivitz, was exposed a couple of times in this game. And the entire line, Colby, I believe, got benched in this game, did he not? He was struggled in pass protection as well, the rookie from Iowa. He probably hasn't faced, a D-line like this. He probably didn't face that in the Big Ten. So, this was not a good matchup for them. Now, you don't know what would have happened if the game played out differently. I thought that McCaffrey, there were a couple of runs where I thought he gained 7, 8, 9 yards. Obviously, he couldn't carry the ball very much. They only ran 40-plus plays, which in an NFL game is absurd. And in the first half, I think they ran 15 plays, which is nuts. But so there was no way for the offense to establish any rhythm. And when that happens, it makes each individual play magnified. And if it doesn't work, you go, oh, God, something's really wrong here. They stink. Whereas if you're running a lot of plays, one play does not seem anywhere near as important.
Exactly, and they had no chance in the first half to really run much. I'm wondering what your thoughts are, Greg, about the movement in the league now toward offenses going with 6 offensive linemen, and whether or not the Niners can, with their 2 tight end set, replicate that and be successful in that way.
Well, the Niners, look, they've been a 21 personnel offense for years, and Juszczyk is a movable chess piece. He lines up all over. So it's not, he can be a tight end as well. I don't think Kyle's going to go away from playing 21 personnel. They do play 12 at times, but a lot of teams have started to use more 6 O-line personnel. Now, there are pros and cons to that, guys. Don't just assume because more teams are doing it, and clearly the numbers reflect that it automatically is a great thing for every single team. Because don't forget, you're removing a guy as an eligible receiver. So pretty much when teams go to 6 offensive linemen, they do it to run the football. For the high percentage of those plays are run plays. So do the Niners need a 6th offensive lineman when healthy, one of the absolute best blocking tight ends in the game in George Kittle? They probably don't. It probably doesn't really benefit them, and it takes away from what they can do in the pass game.
I just wonder why they didn't do more 22. And in fact, the only time they went to 23 personnel, they scored a touchdown with Tonjes. Did that surprise you that they didn't use more Tonjes and Farrell?
Yeah, that was in the low red zone, and that was later in the game. I think in terms of the way they want to play and control games, and this game got away in many different areas, mostly because of their defense. I don't think that they want to be doing that. I think they want to have the really good mix of run and pass, have players that have movement, because Kittle, in addition to McCaffrey, Kittle is a pre-snap movement player in their offense. When their offense is playing correctly and doing what Kyle Shanahan wants, they're a very high percentage pre-snap movement team, and you don't really do that with a sixth offensive lineman.